A flight attendant passed by and whispered to her colleague, "Look at him. He's laughing now. I've never seen a child calm down like that." The colleague nodded. Sometimes it just takes the right person at the right time. Mr. Whitman's heart ached with understanding. He had been trying in his own way to be that person, but he had failed. It took Mia, a child with no reason to help, no obligation, to reach Ethan in a way he never could. He thought of all the toys, all the games, all the tutors, all the specialists he had hired. None of them had worked. None of them had broken through the wall that fear and isolation had built around his son. But Mia had done it effortlessly, with kindness, attention, and genuine care. Ethan paused mid-sign, looked at Mia, and signed slowly, "You, my best friend?" Mia grinned. "Always," she signed back, her small fingers dancing with life. Mr. Whitman watched the exchange and felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He had money, power, influence, but he had never had the ability to make his son feel truly understood. And now, in this tiny moment on a crowded airplane, he realized that empathy, patience, and genuine connection were more valuable than any fortune he could accumulate. He glanced down at Ethan's little face, lit with joy and curiosity. For the first time in a long while, he felt a deep sense of humility. All the wealth in the world could not replace moments like this, moments that could only be earned through love and understanding. Passengers were now quietly observing the two children. Some whispered, "This is beautiful." Others raised their phones discreetly, capturing the tiny miracle unfolding in the aisle. But to Mr. Whitman, none of that mattered. What mattered was that his son had found a connection, a friend, a companion who could speak the language he had never been able to hear, but had always longed to understand. Mia, oblivious to the grown-up world around them, began signing another story. This time about a magical tree that grew candy and glitter, with animals who danced in the branches. Ethan followed her every motion, giggling silently, his laughter contagious to anyone watching. It was impossible not to be moved. For the first time in a long while, Mr. Whitman felt truly present. No business deals, no phone calls, no wealth mattered here. What mattered was connection, love, understanding. And he knew he had to learn from this small girl if he wanted to truly connect with his son in the future. As the plane flew steadily towards its destination, Mr. Whitman's heart was full, not with pride or accomplishment, but with gratitude. Gratitude for Mia, for the unspoken bond she had created, and for the lesson she had taught him, that sometimes the richest treasures in life are the simplest, the most human, and the most genuine. Ethan paused again, signing slowly, "Thank you, Mia." Mia's face lit up. "You're welcome," she signed back, then nudged him gently. "Now, let's play another game." And so, the airplane cabin, filled with hundreds of strangers, became a quiet theater of imagination, laughter, and silent joy. Two children, connected by understanding, had transformed the world around them, even if only for a fleeting moment. And Mr. Whitman, the billionaire, had learned a lesson he would never forget. The most valuable gifts in life cannot be bought. They are given freely, with love, patience, and understanding.
The hours passed on the airplane, but for Ethan and Mia, time seemed to move differently. What had started as a simple gesture of kindness had blossomed into an unbreakable bond, a private world that only they could inhabit. Every glance, every gesture, every flicker of a smile was part of a conversation that no one else could hear, but everyone could feel. Mia leaned closer to Ethan, her small fingers flying through the air, signing with expressive energy. "Let's pretend we are explorers," she signed. "And this plane is a flying island filled with treasure and secret creatures." Ethan's eyes lit up. He mirrored her gestures with growing confidence, signing back, "I'm the captain. I'll find the treasure first." And just like that, the aisle between them transformed into a jungle, the seats into caves, and the overhead compartments into mountains. To the outside observer, they were simply two children in a plane seat. But inside their world, dragons roared, magical animals danced, and treasures sparkled in hidden corners of their imagination. Mr. Whitman watched quietly, leaning forward in his seat. He realized that this bond, silent, unspoken, but deeply felt, was something he had never experienced with Ethan before. Money had provided him everything except this, the language of the heart, and now he could see it blooming before his eyes. Even the flight attendants noticed the change in the once fussy boy in the window seat, was now smiling, animated, fully alive. They whispered among themselves, marveling at how one small girl had completely transformed the atmosphere of the cabin. Passengers, too, were caught in the quiet magic. Some discreetly raised their phones, trying not to disturb the private joy of the children. Others simply watched, their expressions softening, eyes misting over. The cabin had gone from just being a crowded airplane to a theater of wonder, imagination, and silent communication. Ethan, feeling braver now, began to explore the limits of their shared game. He pointed to the overhead lights and signed, "The treasure is hidden there." Mia followed, her eyes wide with excitement. Together they pretended to climb invisible ladders, dodge imaginary obstacles, and communicate with invisible creatures. At one point, Ethan paused, signing slowly, "I like you." Mia grinned brightly. "I like you, too," she signed back, her fingers dancing in the air with joy. The gesture was small, but the significance was enormous. It was trust. It was friendship. It was the understanding that even in a world that often seemed confusing and unfair, there was someone who truly saw him. Mr. Whitman felt a lump in his throat. For all his wealth, all his achievements, he had never given his son something as simple yet powerful as connection. Here, in the middle of an airplane, a small black girl had done what he had failed to do for years, and he realized that true influence, true power, was not about money. It was about presence, empathy, and understanding. Mia signed another story, this time about a magical river filled with glowing fish that could sing melodies through their fins. Ethan responded with laughter, his hands flying in the air to add his own imaginary creatures to the scene. Their laughter was silent, but infectious. Even passengers nearby couldn't help but smile. The flight attendant passing by paused for a moment, watching Ethan's face light up in a way she had never seen before. "Sometimes," she whispered to her colleague, "all it takes is someone who can speak their language." The bond between the two children continued to deepen. They shared imaginary adventures, exchanged secrets, and even comforted each other when Ethan briefly tensed during turbulence. Mia simply held his hand, her small fingers squeezing his reassuringly, and he calmed almost instantly. Mr. Whitman couldn't tear his eyes away. He realized that these moments, the trust, the joy, the silent communication, were shaping Ethan in ways he had never imagined. Mia was not just a friend, she was a bridge. She was showing him a world where he could be understood, where he could be confident, and where his fear could be soothed without words. As the plane began its descent, Ethan and Mia continued to sign back and forth, their hands moving quickly, fluidly, as if telling a story faster than the outside world could follow. They were inseparable, a perfect team navigating a universe of imagination. Ethan paused, looking at Mia with wide eyes. He signed slowly, deliberately. "Will we play again?" Mia smiled warmly. "Always," she signed back, her fingers brushing against his in a small, reassuring gesture. Mr. Whitman felt a profound sense of humility. The billionaire, used to controlling vast empires, had learned that the most important lessons in life were not about power or wealth. They were about love, empathy, and human connection. And here, in the middle of an airplane, a small black girl had done what he had failed to do for years. And the airplane's cabin lights reflected softly off the polished surfaces, catching the glimmer in Ethan's eyes and the bright joy in Mia's expression. Even the passengers, who had been silent observers, seemed touched by the scene. It was a reminder that kindness and understanding are contagious. They ripple outward, transforming everyone who witnesses them. When the captain announced that they were beginning their final descent, Ethan looked at Mia one last time before the landing. He signed carefully, "Thank you, friend." And in that simple exchange, the world seemed right. Two children, connected by understanding, had transformed not only the moment, but the hearts of those around them.
The plane began its descent, the soft rumble of the landing gear echoing through the cabin. Outside, the city lights stretched like a golden river, twinkling against the darkening sky. Inside, the cabin was alive, not with the usual chatter of passengers preparing for landing, but with the quiet joy of two children who had shared something extraordinary. Ethan and Mia continued their silent conversation, hands moving rapidly, telling stories of dragons, treasure, and magical creatures. Each gesture was infused with laughter, trust, and the unspoken bond of friendship. The cabin seemed to shrink around them, leaving only the world they had built together. Mr. Whitman leaned forward, watching his son with a mixture of pride, humility, and awe. He realized that he had spent years providing Ethan with every material luxury imaginable, yet none of it had brought him the kind of joy and connection he now witnessed. Mia, with nothing but her kindness, empathy, and knowledge of sign language, had given Ethan a gift that wealth could never buy: understanding. As the plane touched down smoothly, passengers began to stir, retrieving belongings and preparing to disembark. But Ethan and Mia barely noticed. Their focus remained on each other, exchanging silent stories, signing about imaginary adventures, and sharing laughter that needed no sound. Finally, the moment came. Mia's mother gently tugged her hand. "Sweetie, it's time to go," she mouthed. Mia hesitated, glancing at Ethan with a shy smile. Ethan signed slowly, deliberately, "Friend, always." Mia's eyes sparkled, and she signed back, "Always." Then, with a small, playful bow, she waved at him, a promise lingering in her gesture. Mr. Whitman knelt down, lowering himself to Ethan's level. He signed slowly, carefully, "Thank you." Ethan's small hands mirrored the gesture, then rested in his father's for a brief, grounding moment. Mr. Whitman's heart swelled. He had witnessed something rare and transformative, a moment of true connection, empathy, and understanding, brought about not by money, but by human kindness. As Mia and her mother walked down the aisle, Ethan's gaze followed them. He waved, signing, "Goodbye." Mia waved back, her smile radiant, her fingers forming the same simple, powerful word: friend. Mr. Whitman stood behind his son, silently reflecting on the lessons of the flight. For all his power, wealth, and influence, he realized that the things that truly mattered, connection, empathy, and love, could not be bought. They could only be given, nurtured, and shared. In the taxi to their car, Ethan sat quietly beside his father, occasionally looking out the window, replaying the adventure-filled flight in his mind. Mr. Whitman glanced at him, silently vowing to do better, to be present, and to truly understand his son, just as Mia had. He thought about the small black girl who had changed everything with nothing more than her presence, her courage, and her heart. She had given his son laughter, confidence, and a sense of safety. She had reminded him, in a way no adult or teacher ever could, of the transformative power of empathy and understanding. As they approached their car, Ethan leaned against his father, still smiling softly. He didn't need words to explain the joy he felt. He had been seen, understood, and valued for exactly who he was, and that, Mr. Whitman knew, was priceless. The city stretched out around them, full of noise, lights, and hurried people. But in the Whitman family's little world, a lesson had been learned, one that would echo far beyond the walls of any mansion or boardroom. True wealth is not measured in dollars or possessions, but in the depth of our connections, the kindness we show, and the understanding we offer. Mr. Whitman looked at his son and whispered softly, "I understand now." Ethan smiled, a silent agreement passing between them. The billionaire knew that his son's happiness was no longer tied to material things, but to moments of connection, love, and empathy that money could never buy. Even as they drove away from the airport, the memory of the flight lingered. Ethan thought of Mia, their adventures, and their shared laughter. And Mr. Whitman thought of the small girl who had taught him the greatest lesson of all, that even the simplest acts of kindness could change lives in ways unimaginable. The camera could pan upward, showing the city lights fading behind them as the car disappeared into the night. Inside, a father and son shared an unspoken understanding, a bond strengthened by empathy and love, ready to face the world together with new hearts and new eyes. And somewhere, across the city, Mia's laughter echoed softly in memory, a reminder that one small act of kindness could ripple across lives and transform them forever. Fade out.